Okay. Okay, here we go. So we are on the bottom of 90B of Tzadi Amud Beis. Sorry, that's not true. We're in the bottom of Pei Tes Amud Beis of 89B. So we're about 12, 13 lines on the bottom. Last three words. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Asr la'adam sheyishem mida chasera o yisera b'soch beso va'afilu hi avet shel meimei raglaim. So a person shouldn't keep any scales that are uneven in his house. Even a scale that's used, to go to the bathroom. Any kinds of vessels like that are uneven. So one should not use those. One should not have them around in their house. Okay. Amar of Papa, Amar Ella, Ba'asr de lo Chasimi. Aval Ba'asr de Chasimi, so Ilo Chazi, so Ilo Chazi Chasima lo Shakil. So now a person, and this is only talking about places where there are these officials that come in and check the measures. 1 second. I was thinking about Basra. Yeah, they have in the base measures on the back shelf. So there were people that the government officials used to come and check out the people's measures. So 1 second. Yeah, so in a place where they're not checking. So in a place where they go in there, check the vessels. They make sure that they check that your scales are equal, are even. So ilo chazi chasima lo shakil. So if they're not going to see it, so then they're not going to take it. Points out here that they used to put out seals, certain seals that are affixed on your measures to make sure that they're good. So if they're places that are sealed, so then it's up to the customer to go and see that you have like a hechsher, you have like an OU on your scale. So if there is no chasima, if there's no hechsher, the guy's not going to take any merchandise that's going to be measured in it. So then it's fine. But in a place where they don't put seals on these things, so then you have to be more careful. So a place that there aren't any seals that are affixed onto your measures, so then it's only where there are no spot checks, meaning they don't go in the check. So just wondering who's here. So oh, Jared.
Sorry? Yes. Oh.
What you know? Right.
I was stuck with him. I was like, why can't I get him in the building? I was like, I don't know. I'm like, who are you? Like, I don't know you. I can't just.
No,
I someone like,
he's
I mean, but he knew this code, so.
they're gonna change the code today. Okay, back to our scheduled programming. So let's turn off a little bit, 1 second. So some places they had government officials come and check, and other places they had seals. So you have to make sure you have the right measures. Now, if there's no seals, so then you have to be careful. Places that they have a seal, a hechsher, an OU on your scale. If you have a scale, so then that has a hechsher, then great. If you don't, then you have to be careful, because if you have a hechsher, the guy's going to see if you have it or not. Now, even where you don't have a hechsher, so then you can't keep these inaccurate measures in your house. So that's only if they don't come and spot check. Every so often they would come and check. Do you have kosher measures in your house or not? But if they have spot checks, or the government officials come, or you have a hechsher on it, so then there's not much to worry about. But if they don't do any of these things, they don't ensure that a person's, if there's no supervision over your scales, that's where the Gemara said that you shouldn't keep these things in your house. Okay. Velohi. So the Gemara rejects this and says, Zimnin de mikri bein hashmashos. Sometimes they're going to come check bein hashmashos. So they're going to check right close to evening time. So if that's when the spot checks come, so that's not going to necessarily be so helpful for us. So therefore, even if they do spot checks, make sure that you still don't have inaccurate vessels by your house, because if they do bein hashmashos, specifically going into Shabbos, so that what's going to happen? Bein hashmashos umikri v'shakil. So now, if they only check bein hashmashos going into Shabbos, there's still a worry that they might come and that a person might use an inaccurate measure. So if he knows that they're coming, erev Shabbos 5 minutes before mincha or something like that, so then the person would still use this inaccurate, dishonest measure, and the whole day he'll use it. Just on Shabbos, he's not going to use it. Fine. So Tanya Mihachi lo yisha adam mida chaser yiser b'sok beso. A person shouldn't keep this inaccurate measure in his house. Vafilu hi avit shamnei miralam, even if he's using it, for bathroom purposes. But still, we're very strict about not having any kinds of, dishonest measures in one's house. Okay. So here we go. We're going to start a long process of different kinds of measures, solid measures and liquid measures. So if you have an art scroll, you can look at the art scroll or the chart that I posted on Zoom. I think page 4, 7 or 8. So okay. So you should do in the following way: dry measurements. We're going to have dry measurements, and then we're going to have liquid measurements. Osahu sa'a. So the following are all the dry measurements: sa'a, tirkav, chatzi tirkav, v'kav, v'chatzi kav, v'rova, v'tuman, v'chatzi tuman, v'ochla. Okay, so those are the list of dry measurements. Says the Gemara, v'ochla kamahi. How much is a uchla? So the Gemara says uchla is echad mechamisha b'revia. And uchla is going to be echad mechamisha b'revia. So an uchla is going to be 1/5 of a lug, which is going to be 1 egg and 1/5. So a uchla is going to be 1/5 of a lug, which is a volume of 1 1/5 of an egg. Those are all the dry measurements. So now the liquid measurements, we're on the second line, Jared, of 98. Ubemida salach are the following. So before we had in kavs, and now we're talking in hins. So balachu osehin, the chatzihin, the shlishisahin, ureviyisahin, the log, the chatzilog, the revius ushminis. And those are all the measurements when it comes to the liquid measures. Yeah. So the echad mishmona b'shminis v'zehu kurtav. So you have that's going to be a kurtav, an eighth of an eighth is going to be the measurement of a kurtav. So in these measurements of solid and liquids, so back to our solids for a second. So we had a tarkov and we had a chatzi tarkov. A tarkov was 3 kav, and a chatzi tarkov was half of that was 1.5 kav, and then you had a kav, and then you had half of a kav. So there's one measurement that's missing, 2 kavs. 2 kavs was never mentioned. So it says the Gemara, out of all these measurements that you told us we should do, we should measure our, you should measure things with. So you mentioned 3 kavs, you mentioned 1.5 kavs, you mentioned 1 kav, you mentioned half a kav, but you never mentioned 2 kavs. Like nowadays, some people have this, but it's not very common. A $2 bill, right? Yeah. So you have $1 bill, a $5 bill, a $10 bill. So it would be the same as asking, like, where's your $2 bill? Why don't you have a $2 bill? So it says the Gemara, "B'la'avid nami kabayim." Make a measurement of 2 kavs. Says the Gemara, no, that's way too close to the measurement right above it. Asi le'echlufe betir kav. A tir kav is 3 kavs. If you're going to make a measurement of 2 kavs, it's going to be very commonly confused with the measurement of 3 kavs. And therefore, to avoid any confusion and any cheating or any mistakes happening, we didn't make a measurement of 2 kav. We made 3 kav and 1.5 kav. Those are far apart enough that
closer to 1.5 instead of 3.
Oh, the Gemara doesn't talk about that. Good. So says the Gemara, you see from here, alma to inchi tilta. People make a mistake by a third. Now we're going to have a lot of measurements. The calculation of the Gemara is always called milabar and not milagav. Milabar means from the outside. Milagav is from the inside, like a brisa. Brisa is outside. Or like when they come to take the Arabs out of their homes in Israel, they yell bara bara. It's Arabic for outside. Yeah, milabar is outside. So if you have two, so a third from the outside means when you add, it's now 1/3 more. So it would mean if you have 2 kavs, so 3 kavs is considered in the Gemara's language, it's 1/3 more. It's not 1/3 of 2, but when you add this measurement, now it's going to be 1/3 more. Right? So
1/3 of the total.
1/3 of the total, exactly. So it says the Gemara, we learn from here, alma to inchi tilta. People make a mistake by a third because you're so worried if you had a measurement of 2 kavs that people are going to confuse it with 3 kavs. So you see, that's a mistake that people make. So ihachi, if that's true, so kav nami lo ba'avid. You have a 1 kav measurement. You know what's going to happen? Asi dechluva bechatzi tir kav. 1 kav and 1.5 kav, those are very close together. So if you're worried about people confusing 2 kav for 3 kav, because they can make a mistake of such a large measure, even a third from the total, so then for sure you should not make a measurement of 1 kav and 1.5 kav, because those, that's closer together, like John was saying, and yet we do make those measurements. So says the Gemara, Ella kabayim hainu taima de la'avid. Why can't you make 2 kavs? The asi la'achlufe bechatzi tir kav. You can't make 2 kavs because now people are going to confuse it with 1.5 kavs. Right? So it's not we're going to confuse it for the higher measure. We're going to confuse it for the lower measure. 2 kavs, people are going to be selling things for 2 kavs, for $2 when really it's really only $1.50. It's only really a kav, it's only a kav and a half of weight. So that's too close together. So says the Gemara, al matai inish riva, that people make a mistake by a fourth. Once again, it's a fourth from the total. So 1.5 down to 1, or really from 1 to 1.5, is considered a fourth if you have 100 and you add 20. So rather, that's really a fifth of the total. If you have 100, you add 20. What is it?
2 to 1.5.
From 2 to 1.5. Right. What's it? Yeah, from 2 to 1.5. That's a quarter. Fine. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. So if that's true that you're so worried that people are going to make a mistake by a quarter, so then chatzi tuman v'uchla lo va'avid. So a tuman is double check. I think it's an eighth of
eighth of a cup.
An eighth of a kav, right?
No,
So-
16.
Yeah,
Yeah, eighth of a.
an eighth of a kav. Yeah, half of an eighth of a kav, meaning a tuman is an eighth of a kav. A chatzi tuman is half of an eighth. So half of an eighth is a 16th of a kav, and then an uchla is much less. An uchla is an uchla is 1/20th of a kav. So you're going between 1/16th of a kav and 1/20th of a kav. So those are very small measurements. So if you're so worried people are going to be confused by a fourth, so from 1/16th to 1/20th, you should also be worried. And yet we have measurements that are 1/16th and 1/20th. Amar of Papa, no, those are so small. Midos kitanos beki behu inchi. Very small measurements people know, and they're not going to confuse very small measurements. I guess like between a dime and a nickel, but maybe between very large measurements, you might come to make a mistake. That was only a million, wasn't it? A million and a million and 100. That you're not so worried about. Something like that. So people are very, they're knowledgeable in the small measurements. So therefore, we're not worried. Okay. Then the Gemara says now to our liquid measures, Shlishi sahin and Revi'i sahin lo la'avid. You have a measurement of Shlishi sahin, which are 24 eggs. Revi'i sahin are 18 eggs. So maybe you shouldn't make that, you shouldn't make those two measurements either, because those are also very close together. You're going from 24 to 18. So we say no. Hins, the measurement called a hin, Kaven dehavu b'mikdash, these shlishi sahin and revi'i sahin, those are psukim in the Torah that they had in the base of Mikdash. Things they had in the base of Mikdash, Kaven dehavu b'mikdash, lo gazuv hu rabbanon. So that they're not going to make a decree about not having those measurements. Those are unique. Those they have in the base of Mikdash. I guess if they have them in the base of Mikdash, people are more knowledgeable in them. I guess that's the. So says the Gemara, okay, but Mikdash nami ligzer. You don't solve the problem. If people generally make mistakes in this equation, so then you should also make a decree that in the base of Mikdash, they can't use these either. That we say, a line that comes up a lot of places, Kohanim Zrizenhain. It says the Kohanim are generally referred to as Zrizen. Zrizen, it's used sometimes to mean alacrity, but in this case, it usually means they're very scrupulous, they're very attentive, they're very focused, they're very diligent in what they're doing. And therefore, when it comes to these measurements, even though outside the base of Mikdash, in everyday life, people would make a mistake when the equation is so small. And the base of Mikdash are so exact and they're so precise that we're not worried about that mistake being made. Okay, so we made it through part one of measurements.
We apply this logic to all different types of measurements, whether it's dry weights or liquids or volume or distance or anything like that.
That they had in the base of Mikdash?
No, I mean these rules we have regarding what you can and can't do.
Mm-hmm.
You apply them to all the types of measures.
So far, we have dry things and liquids.
Right. I was gonna say.
Yeah. More than that, like I said, eggs. I mean, the liquids have the volume of an egg, so volume also. So you have dry measures, liquids, volume. What else is there? What?
Weight distance.
Oh yeah. Oh, distance. Right. Well, when would distance come up? Like how many? Right. How many?
If you're buying leather or yarn or
Lamb,
string.
right?
Yeah.
Or if you have to do a distance and not weight. That's a good question. Right. Okay. I don't know. That's a good question. Okay. So now, continue with measures, but that's with the charts. So Amar Shmuel. So Shmuel said, "Ein mosif and al hamidos yoser mishtos, velo al hamadbeya yoser mishtos, v'hamishtaker al yishtaker yoser mishtos." So let's say you wanted to add to your measurement. You want a pound to include more than it includes, right? You want to now set that when it says in the store is a pound, it's really referring to a pound and a half, or you want to, when people refer to $1 now, you want there to be a little bit of inflation, you want $1 really $2, but we're going to make the new $2 $1. You want to increase things like that, or you want to increase about, how much people are paying, that they're allowed to charge more than a certain amount. So Shmuel says you can't do ein mosif and amidos yoser mishtos. You can't add to measurements more than a sixth. Once again, a sixth from the total. Velo ala matbeya, and when you're dealing with coins, you can't add. You can't make, let's say, a quarter. All of a sudden, a quarter is worth $100 bill. That's not going to work. So velo ala matbeya yoser mishtos. V'amishtaker al yishtaker yoser mishtos. So when you're coming to when you're a salesman and you're selling things, so your increase can't be more than a sixth. Maybe you can't sell for more than what you're selling now. It can't be more than a sixth. So why are you not allowed to add to a measure more than a sixth? So let's say you have all these calves and half calves and 3 calves and 4 calves. You decided now that the new calf is going to be 10 calf, whatever it is. You want everyone to refer to a calf now as instead of a pound of potatoes, let's say, meaning, I don't know, 10 potatoes, you want now 20 potatoes to mean a pound. A pound's going to be holding much more. So why do you have to always be within a sixth? Why is that true? So ilem mishum afkuye tara, so then shtus namilo. If you're worried about afkuye tara, if you're worried about that people are going to be bringing in things to sell, and when they see everyone adding to the measurement, so then 1 second. You're worried about inflation, that people are going to see, people are going to come and sell things in your area, and when the merchants adjust the price, so then they're going to go and they're also going to up their prices. So if you up it a little bit, more than a sixth, the guy's going to come to town and start selling things. He'll sell for much more. So once he sells it for, he says, oh, if you're selling things for more than a sixth, I'll sell it for another increase. And then once he increases, everyone else is going to increase also. Now you've caused a lot of inflation. So mishum afkuye tara, so then shtus namilo. And what's this rule of only a sixth? You can't do more than a sixth. If you're worried about people coming and seeing that the prices have gone up and then they're going to raise the prices, so even 1/6 should be enough. Even 1/6 should be enough to you shouldn't even allow 1/6. So ella mishum ona. So we know ona is when you charge for more, you charge for less. So the general rule by ona is if you charge more than a sixth, then the batal mekach, it's no good. The deal is no good. If I buy your coffee mug from Jared for more than a sixth of its worth, it's not a good sale. If I buy it for less than a sixth, so then we assume that he was mochel. He said, okay, it's fine, just take it. If I buy it for exactly a sixth, so then the halacha is that it's a good sale, but he has to return me the money, or I have to return to him the money. So if you overcharge me more than a sixth, then we could say no deal. The deal's off. If you charge me less than a sixth, so then we assume that you're fine with it, or I'm fine with it. Now, if you charge me exactly a sixth more from than your coffee mug is worth, then it's a good deal. But it's a pretty special one, I know. It says Costco, yeah. So Costco ain't used. So if it's a sixth exactly, so then it's a good day. It's a good sale, but the money has to be returned. The overcharge or undercharge of the money, whoever lost out has to be compensated. So maybe that's why we're saying you can't increase more than a sixth. You can't start selling stuff and increasing measures more than a sixth because ela mishumona delo lahave bittul mekach. You don't want people to have all these bittul mekachs. Are going to have all these cases where you're going to be selling stuff for more than a sixth, and really that's not going to be a good sale. The problem is that in the world of ona, this only goes for certain categories. Hamar Rava says kol davar shebamida v'mishkol u'shebaminyan afilu pachos mikdei ona chozer. When you're selling things when they have a certain weight, a specific weight, and they have a specific price to them or a specific amount, so even if it's less than a sixth, according to Rava, it's no deal. So I mean, if the item says on it, whatever, $10.99, it's clear, or you're clearly selling, 5 of something, and then you go and you start overcharging or undercharging. So Rava says when it comes to if I'm supposed to pay $10.99, it says $10.99 on that bottle, and now you go and overcharge. So that's no longer ona. That's what we call a mekach. That's like going and getting a car and the guy's selling you a table. If I know I'm buying 5 of something and you sold me one of something, instead of being 100 chairs, you gave me one chair. So that's no longer, just charging over undercharging. That's now called the mekaktos. That's called something which is that's a totally null and void, because I went to get a bottle and he gave me a chair. So that we understand is null and void. It's a specific price or a specific measurement or a specific quantity, and then all of a sudden he sells me way less or way more. So or even a sixth more or six less. So that Rava says even pachos michtei ona chozer. Usually, if it's less than ona, we assume that the person's mochel. The person, he doesn't mind the less than a sixth loss or gain. But when it's a specific measurement or weight or quantity, so then even if it's less than a sixth, we view it as a mekaktos, and the sale is null and void. Ella, the reason why we said you cannot increase for more than a sixth is because dilohave pseida le tagra. We don't want a merchant to come to town and you've upped the prices, and he doesn't know that, and he starts selling things for the old price. The quantity, of 1 pound used to be this amount, so and now he can get much more for his pound. Right now, instead of 10 potatoes, 1 pound now is 20 potatoes. So a person says, I can have he goes to farmer's market here on Sunday, I have a pound of potatoes, so that's going to cause, a loss to the seller if he's not sure about the new change in the system. So elad lo lahavi pseida l'tagra. So we say pseida hu lo lahavi, but revacha lo bayi, meaning we're only worried about a loss, but how about a gain? This the seller might gain. He says, are we only worried about that he shouldn't suffer a loss? Revacha lo bayi. But doesn't the guy need a profit? Meaning, why can a guy come and sell things for more money? The guy needs to make some money. So why can't he come to your town? And even though he thinks that you're on the old measurement, you've increased it by a certain amount, but why can't this guy go and make more money? Meaning, if he needs to make more money, he can sell his things on the market for the price that he needs to make a profit. So Zavin v'Zavin Tagra Ikri, he can buy merchandise, he can go bring it here, and he shouldn't make a profit from what he's doing. So it can't be that you can't increase. You're not allowed to increase the prices because you're worried about the salesman. Because why can a salesman come to town? And if he comes to town, he's able to. He worked hard. He slept all the way here. Let him sell for more money, and let him profit from that. So.
Gemara get into how do they determine the base?
The original price?
Yeah, it seems like to me like
subjective.
It's subjective, right? So 1/6 off of.
Right. How much is it?
What's our standard for? Yeah,
They always say to go to the marketplace and check.
Go to the marketplace. Yeah.
Who decides the marketplace?
Yeah, if at one time one guy selling it for that, and you're saying, that he should have known that it was he got defrauded because then it was 1/6 higher here, and then
you're saying, how did it start? It really has to start somewhere. How was the baseline?
So each town can have a different baseline.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. What gas prices are in Portland are not what they are. But we had earlier that they do have certain officers have to come and check people are doing things evenly.
No, but that's
so if everyone agrees to
Yeah, but that's just weights and measures. That's somebody coming certifying your scale is accurate.
Right. Yeah, I guess if everyone in the shuk gets together, to up their prices.
It's price fixing.
What is that?
It's price fixing.
Price
No,
fixing.
because I think it's actually compared against your own price.
We had earlier that you're not allowed to. Yesterday we had.
Sorry, I know we're behind.
Yeah, just clarify this last point. So we were worried that a merchant's going to come. He's not going to be aware of all the adjustment, and he's going to sell his things for the old measure, and without realizing that he might have made a mistake. So. Right. So to that we said that are we only concerned that the guy's going to suffer a loss, but we also should be worried that he's not going to gain anything. So meaning, if we made this more than a 6th rule, we should be worried not only that the guy might suffer a loss, he's going to come and sell things with the old measurement, and therefore he might suffer a loss. But we should also be worried that that he might not make a profit. So just to clarify, if a merchant comes to town and is not aware of the new increase, he might be selling stuff from the old price and the old weights, and then he's not going to realize that he made a mistake until he leaves town. So to that we're saying, but if you're so worried about him, you should be worried about him also not making a profit, not just suffering a loss. So if that would be true, then it wouldn't answer our question because you're only worried about making more than a sixth, and he might suffer a loss. But you should always be worried about him. So if you're always worried about him, so then you should never increase anything. There shouldn't be, because he'll come to town and he's not going to know even a small measurement, and he might make a mistake and he won't gain anything. So finally, the Gemara concludes, Elamar of Chista, Shmuel, Kra Eshkach V'Darish. At the end of the day, Shmuel found a pasuk, which is we're gonna jump into the next part about measurements. So the pasuk says like this. The pasuk says in Yecheskel, the hashekel esrim geira, esrim shkolim, the hashekel esrim geira, esrim shkolim, chamisha ve'esrim shkolim, asara ve'chamisha shekel, hamana yelachem. So in the verse in Yecheskel, we have three different amounts: 20 shekel, 25 shekel, and 15 shekel. Esrim shkolim, chamisha esrim shkolim, so 20 plus 25 is 45. The chamisha shekel, 50 shekel, and this is all referred to a mana. This is referred to a mana. So one mana in this verse is referred to 50 shekel. Now that usually a mana. Okay, let's see. Yeah. So in this verse, these three calculations total of 50 shekel, and the pasuk refers to that as a mana. So now, where do you see that we're adding a sixth in this verse? We're trying to bring a proof, turning the page, that we're going to be adding a sixth. So usually a mana is. So in this case, a mana is masan v'arbayin havu. In this case, a mana, which is referred to 50 shekel, is really 240 dinar. Because why? A shekel is 4 dinar. So a shekel is 4 dinar, and here you have 50 shekels. So really, that's going to be 200 dinar. Now, in this verse, it's referring to a mana as 240 dinar. 1 second. You get that right? 1 second. Sorry. Here it's 60 shekel total over here. It's referring to a mana as 60 shekel. And 60 shekel in this case is going to be 240 zuz, because a shekel is 4 dinar. And if a shekel is 4 dinar and we have 60 shekel, you're going to get to 240. Okay, so in this verse, one mana seems to refer to as 240 shkolim. So now we say, right there,
60 shekel.
Yeah, 60 shekel is going to be 240 dinar. So now 240 dinar. So now we're going to learn from here 3 things. El shmamina tlat. Shmamina shel kodesh kafal hayu. We're going to see why in a second. But a shekel, which is used for the Mishkan, for the Beis Hamikdash, is twice the amount of a regular shekel. Vishmamina mosifin alamidos, and we learn from here that you add on to measurements, and we learned ein mosifin yoser mishtos, that when you add, sorry, the second thing is when you add, you only add a sixth. Vishmamina shtusa milabar, that a sixth is considered from the outside, from the total. So how do you get all this? So now we're not in solids and liquids, but now we are in, so we have a chart here. Now we are in shekels. So now in this case, we have 240 dinar. 240 dinar is referred to as 60 shkolim, because in the pasuk it said 20, 25, and 15. And it referred to that as one mana. Now usually a mana is
60.
Well, that's in this case. 1 second. Yeah, usually Usually a mana is really 25 shekels. Now, in this verse, it's referring to 50 shekels. So how did we get there? So first we added a 6. We went from 25 shekels to 30 shekels, which is an increase of a 6 from the total. So when you go from 25 to 30, you're adding a 6 from the total of everything, not from within, but from the outside. So now we added from 25 shekels to 30 shekels, and then we doubled it to 60 shekels. So originally a mana is really only 25 shekels, but we're increasing by a 6th, so we're going up to 30 shekels. And in the base of Migdash, what a mana was not the same as it was in the marketplace. In the marketplace, it was usually 25, but in the base of Migdash, it's going to be 50. So what we did was we went up from 25 to 30, and then we doubled it. So, and that's why in the verse it's referring to a mana as 60 shkalim. So that's how you learn all these things. You learn, first of all, that it's doubled in the base of Mikdash. You learn that the increase is by a 6th. And you learn that you're allowed to increase. Yeah. So it was from this verse in Yecheskel that Shmuel saw, if you want to increase on measurements, on quantities, you can only do up to a 6th because that's what we saw in the verse.
Like the fact that they've been doubled it.
To us,
Stuff in the marketplace as well.
I guess like the general principle is always you keep the novelty where it's set. So I guess in the base of Migdash, we always had double the amount.
Everybody knows it basically. Especially
Right. I guess John's saying, well, right? No, I hear. Meaning, on the one hand, we're not taking the fact that it's double, but we are taking the fact that it's more than a 6th, right? I guess that was a special halacha by the base of Migdash. The currency there is doubled. So, but the fact that even the base of Migdash they can increase.